Buddy, hope that you are having a fabulous day. It is great to have you right here. If you don't like that, and Wednesdays means Jerry Reynolds. He'll join me as the Sacramento Kings are here in beautiful Miami. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the rest of the NBA with Jerry Reynolds coming up in just a moment.
Audio Jungle.
And once again, it is a pleasure to welcome in Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, how are you today, buddy?
Well, kind of bouncing back, as we talked, I went through a little stretch of COVID, but I'm probably about 80%. I can give you about 80% today. So
That's good.
About best I can do.
Your 80% is, I've always felt is like a normal person's 100%. So I'm okay with 80% from you.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. So we're all right to go then.
Well, that's good. It's great to have you on. Is there anyone happier this week than Steve Nash to get the hell out of that cuckoo's nest in Brooklyn? I mean, people are feeling sorry for Steve Nash. I'm not feeling sorry for Steve Nash. He's got to be the happiest guy in the world. You know what that's like.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where there's no happy ending, and
Right.
so you might as well get the unhappy ending early and move on. I think Steve Nash is, just a class young man, and I think a good coach. I mean, certainly with been put in that situation, would a more experienced coach had a better chance? Probably not. I don't think it would make any difference. I mean, I think Red Auerbach could come out of the grave, and he would have a tough time dealing with all that stuff as well. So no, Steve Nash, probably the best thing that could have happened to him just happened to him.
Unbelievable. All right. The Kings are here in beautiful Miami taking on the Miami Heat. When we last talked, they had not won a game. Now they've won two in a row. And I don't really care right now. When you're 0-4, I don't really care how you win the games. I mean, it hasn't necessarily been a thing of beauty. They finally won against Miami where they had a 70-49 lead at the break, and Miami cut it to within a basket. And then the other night, the Kings are down 15 at the half against Charlotte. De'Aaron Fox gets hurt, and the Kings had a tremendous second half. So, to me right now, it's just about getting some W's, getting together, and figuring out a way to kind of move up the standings.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, hey, win games,
Yep.
whatever, however you can, and really with the NBA, no lead is safe, and you're never out of it either. That's with the 3-point shot like it is. I mean, we see it every night almost, and so I think really to me what I've seen through 6 games, and we'd always talk about in 5-game segments, but in six
Yes.
games is that this team has proved they can score for the most
Mhm.
part. They're 15th in the league in points scored. Well, that's pretty good, and the 3-point shooting has been good, but the same old thing. They're 24th in defense points allowed. And so until you're not going to win consistently, at that kind of level defensively. So that's where they are. I mean, the thing I look at is win-loss margin. I really believe in that from a team power standpoint, and Kings would be ranked 21st in the league at the moment. So, that's the indicator. It's not a good one, but I think it's a pretty accurate one today.
All right, the Miami Heat played last night. They beat the Golden State Warriors, and it looks like no Jimmy Butler tonight. De'Aaron Fox is out for Sacramento. And you and I were talking before, we came on air, and we'll talk a lot about Sacramento, but as goes Jimmy Butler, goes the Miami Heat. I mean, that's just what's been very evident to me.
When Jimmy Butler is playing at his best, and it's pretty rare actually when he does. I mean, I'm a Jimmy
Mhm.
Butler fan. I'm not a Jimmy Butler fan because I think he picks and chooses his spots more than any player in the league. But invariably during the big spots in playoffs, big games, Jimmy Butler is as good about as anybody.
Yep.
But during regular season, he really isn't interested a lot. And I think it's like the game in Sacramento. I thought Jimmy Butler basically had the walkarounds. Just wasn't involved in the game much, and so not having him play tonight certainly I think it's overall a break for the Kings, but
Sure.
kind of makes up maybe for the loss of Fox as well. So that's the nature of the game. The way the league is now, you're always going to play somebody with guys out, and you're going to have guys out.
All right, Garrison hits it right on the nail. Hello, Grant and Jerry. If the Kings can play consistently good defense, they can win some games. I think that's true of a lot of teams in the league. We haven't seen the Kings play consistently good defense for well over a decade. This year, there's no rhyme or reason to me with their defense. I mean, game one, they allowed Portland to score over 30 points in 3 of the 4 quarters, and it really has not stopped. The Warriors had 89 in the first half. I mean, we can go on and on. I don't know if this team's capable of playing good defense. I really mean that. And then, Jerry, you talked about this last week with Sabonis playing out of position. What they're asking him to do defensively, getting into foul trouble. I mean, it doesn't seem that he can do that.
No, if he has to be the protector of the rim with a bunch of guys charging down the lane, he's going to be in foul trouble all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that that to me, yeah, he's not a great defender, and he's a problem to some degree there. But the bigger problem is wing defenders. You just can't be losing guys going to the basket. The Kings, if they have to get into more zone or slough back, I don't know what they have, but they're going to have to come up with a better plan than they've got, because as you said, find a way to play a little better defense consistently and keep Sabonis on the floor. You've got to have him on the floor. He makes everybody around him better when he's on the floor, and off in foul trouble is not going to work. So that's the charge for Mike Brown and company. I mean, I do think that this may be a team that you would like to pick up and pressure and overplay and take some chances defensively on the wings, but maybe you can't do that. Maybe you just can't do that and got to be more conservative.
All right, Davion Mitchell finally broke out of a little bit of a slow start, to put it mildly. He was not playing well. We know he can play well because over a prolonged stretch last year at the end of the season, when Fox was hurt and was out of the lineup, he was very good offensively. And so now he gets another opportunity without Fox playing tonight. We don't know how long De'Aaron's going to be out with the bruised knee, but this is another good opportunity to see if Mitchell can get back to where he was last year. And I think he can, Jerry.
Oh, I do too. I'm a real fan here. To me, Davion, most of his problems, I thought early in the year, is just inconsistent minutes. He's one of those guys, and we've talked about, you put him on the floor for 30, 35 minutes, he'll produce because of his effort, his hustle, everything that goes with it. The more he plays, the better he'll play. Mm-hmm. And I think the more sporadic he plays, the worse he'll play. And so I think going forward, I'll be surprised if he doesn't be very productive in whatever games, Fox is out. It'd be even better when Fox is available to play, that De'Aaron or Davion can get on the floor 30, 35 minutes, because I just think he finds a way to, he's exactly what the Kings don't have. He is a defensive pain in the ass to the other guys.
Yes, he is.
He's the one guy that really teams have to scheme against. And there's nobody else on the Kings that, when the Heat's playing, they're this guy's a real good defender. We got to worry about him. They're not, it's one guy. That's Davion Mitchell.
Now that we have had an extended look after not being able to play in the first game of the year against Portland, Keegan Murray, Jerry, I mean, he really has a solid all-around game. Are there any things about his game that right now you're like, concerns me a little bit, or do you look at his future and say his ceiling is pretty high?
Oh, I think his ceiling is very high. There's always things you can find in any young player, and I mean, short of the, LeBrons and Oscar Robertsons and Tim Duncans of the world that are sure things. But I mean, his shooting stroke is legit. He plays with confidence. He's showing you ability to get shots for himself more and more all the time. Has a good left hand. I think he's a little more athletic than you think he is, because he's very skilled. Gosh, the only I'd say a negative, early on is I think he should be a little better rebounder. I think he's got to be a little more aggressive. I think that will come with time, but it needs to if he's going to be, it's kind of positionless basketball, but he's going to be allotted four. Well, you've got to get more than a rebound every 5 minutes. I mean, you just simply have to for the position.
Well, is that just learning the league better? You would rebounding to the layman, to the typical fan goes, anybody should be able to get rebounds, but that's not always the case. So what is it specifically? Why do you think his rebounding is lower than what maybe you would like? Well, what is it about? He's got the size. He obviously plays a position where you should get more rebounds. So explain to the fans, what the issue is.
I think mostly it's just the adjustment to the pro game. I mean, to the NBA, it's just bigger, stronger, quicker, faster guys, and so the reaction time is a little less. I mean, I think I'd be surprised if he's not significantly better in 30, 40 games. But he's adjusted. It's always easier to adjust, I think, offensively to anything than it is defensively and rebounding. But we'll see. But I don't see any reason to be terribly concerned. But at some point you look at the numbers and you say, well, this is an area that has to get better. And certainly I can't see that any reason that it wouldn't. I mean, it's not like he's not trying to get them, but I think he's probably a little bit slower to react due to, that maybe got him to the basket for the rebounds in college against guys a little smaller, a little weaker than they are right now.
All right. This question from Jeff: is Keegan Murray ready to score 25? Oh, he'll have games where he scores 25 or more. I mean, that guy is gifted and he can shoot the ball. I mean, as Jerry just was explaining, I mean, is he going to average 25 points a game? No, but, there will be games when he scores 25 points.
Yeah, he's capable of scoring 25 in any game, I think, and I don't know that would be in the team's best interest, and that's what you really want to. The question you probably ought to ask is where should he be for the team to be at their best? And in my opinion, probably with Fox's offensive ability and Huerter's shooting ability, and certainly Sabonis can get 16, 18 without even looking for shots. I mean, I think if he could get average 18 points a game as a rookie, which I think he can, and do it on probably 13 shots or so, I think that would be rookie of the year caliber kind of things. And without having to force a thing, I mean, in 3 or 4 years, then you might start to say, well, this guy's capable of much more offensively, kind of much like his hero, Chris Middleton, was basically took a few years, and I think Murray's a much better prospect at the same age than Middleton, for instance. That doesn't mean he'll necessarily be better
Sure.
in 5 years, but I think that's what you got to look at. It's a process for him to get to be, say, a middle 20-point scorer, which he certainly has the ability to do that.
Jerry, Jeff asked, would you put Alex Len in the starting lineup and move Sabonis to the 4?
I wouldn't. I'd be more inclined to try to get. I'd really try to be more inclined to try to shore up the defense from the wings. Doing some of the things we talked about earlier. Maybe a little more zone, a little more sloughing to protect Sabonis first. But I'll tell you one thing I would like to see against most teams, and now the Heat probably aren't the best example, but I'd like to see Trey Lyles play some 5. I think he gives you a skilled guy who can step out and stretch the floor much, better than Sabonis, and he's probably a little more athletic. Is he a rim protector? No, but I think he's a ball mover and he can make some shots, and then he's got 6 fouls to give you, and so it's just a little hunch there that there might be minutes there, with Alex Len. I think he's a NBA player, but I think with the way the Kings are playing, the best strength they have is offense. And so why go away from that? I'd probably try to think in terms of what we can do to continue to be good at what we're doing, and then try to maybe cut down on the ways we're not very good.
All right. Anita chimes in and says, in order for Davion to get 30-plus minutes, he's going to have to play some minutes with Fox. I look forward to seeing that. But where are the minutes going to come from? Decrease Barnes' minutes? How are they going to do that? Tonight he'll play 30 or more minutes for sure without De'Aaron Fox on the floor. But what do you think about that, Jerry?
Well, I that's a great question, and I do think that you could decrease Barnes' minutes, and I think at times I'd like to. I mean, I think a good team would be Davion Mitchell with Fox, with Huerter, with Mitchell. I mean, excuse me, with Murray and Sabonis. Those five guys now, or it could be Barnes at the four. But I think you can play Huerter out there at the three against a lot of teams. I mean, Huerter, Klay Thompson. I mean, really, are you kidding me? It's the same. There's a lot of that size guy, a mobile threes in this positional stuff. So I guess my answer would be it shouldn't be hard to get Davion 30 minutes. I mean, he could play behind Fox, play behind Huerter, play behind Barnes in a sense, But I mean, Mike Brown really, that's his charge, I think, is to find out, get down to his rotation to the guys he really wants to play, and then figure out how to get your best players on the floor the most minutes. That's it in a nutshell.
Speaking of putting your best players and giving them the most minutes, boy, Kevin Huerter has been the real deal. What a great trade. I mean, he has been really rock solid. That guy is does so many things well. He's a tremendous shooter. I love his basketball IQ. He's got a tremendous feel for the game, Jerry.
He sure does. He's one of those guys that you could see was an excellent player for the Hawks, and they really liked him. Obviously, they had so many guys they could afford to move him, but especially once they got DeJounte Murray. But I thought, and I think certainly Monty McNair knew a lot more about than I did, but felt that probably Huerter was even better potentially than he played with the Hawks. And the reason I thought so, not necessarily with Monty, I'm sure he had more information, but playing with Trae Young is not the easiest thing in the world. He's a great young player. It's a lot like Luka. At times, those guys hunt for shots and hunt for plays.
Yeah, they're ball dominant.
Great,
right?
Because they're great. But I thought with Huerter showed me more ability to play with the ball than he was allowed to do, and I think we're seeing that now. He can go create shots for himself, and I think a lot of people in the league didn't realize he could do that. So that's a real get for Monty McNair. I mean, A+ all the way.
Jerry, this question on the chat line is, do you think it's sustainable for Huerter to shoot over 40% from three this year?
I think he's that caliber of shooter. I mean, it really comes down to the caliber shots you get. Now, I mean, I think the thing I would be a little surprised, I mean, he's taken some tough shots and made them. I don't know if that'll continue. I mean, they'll go through stretches where you're going to take some of those tough shots. You're not going to make them, but hey, he's a big time shooter. I mean, the stroke's good. He's got the range. Can he shoot 40%? Sure. Could he be a 45% for the year? I don't think that likely, but I do see him around that 40% area. I mean, I think Keegan Murray can be there as well. So that's one thing about this team. I think. Now that Fox can make some shots, I think this team can be among the better 3-point shooting teams.
You've always said when the NBA schedule comes out, hey, you play 41 at home and 41 on the road. But so much of the schedule is when do you play these teams? I mean, the first 2 weeks of the season, we've seen that, the number one seeds from last year and in the East. I mean, when you look at Miami, they don't look anything like the number one seed that we saw last year. They have been extremely inconsistent. As we said, they did play last night at home, and they beat the Warriors, who have looked, quite frankly, awful. And you don't have Jimmy Butler tonight. And, the Kings played Charlotte without LaMelo Ball. They're playing Miami tonight without Butler, and they're catching them on a back-to-back. Then you have Orlando, who, looks just like the worst team in the league next. So this game tonight, okay, gives you a real opportunity to beat 500 because you really should beat Orlando. So tonight, and I know it's early in the season, and I don't want to get carried away with big games, but in terms of really just getting right back to the 500 mark, tonight's a big game for Sacramento. You're catching Miami. The table is set perfectly for you.
Yeah, it is. And plus you're going into the game saying, we know we can beat them. We beat them
Yeah.
not long ago. And then they had Jimmy Butler. So I would be surprised if the team's not going in there with a lot of confidence. And as you said, Miami played last night in a game they felt like they needed to win. So there's reason to be for some optimism here. And I would not be surprised at all to see the Kings win this one. I'd almost be more worried about the Orlando one because of a team that has just looked overmatched in the league, and that's when sometimes the teams get to thinking, well, we're get all puffed up and thinking we're pretty good, and we've seen the Kings win. About the time that happens, they get slapped down by a weak team, and it. I think with Miami, the thing that always concerns me the last few years is when they're playing their best. They're an outstanding. They've been an outstanding defensive team. The fact that the Kings have proven they really could score on them, and if you can score on Miami, because they're not a great offensive team, they have they need Tyler Hero to make shots. They need Jimmy Butler to score and Bam Adebayo. I mean, they've got some pretty average parts. I always said that their record and what they've accomplished is better than their talent level, and I think that's credit to Pat Riley and Spoelstra and their effort and all that.
Well, again, no De'Aaron Fox for Sacramento. We don't know exactly, if he'll miss additional games. A bone bruise on your knee can linger and can be a real issue, especially for a guy that makes his living with his speed. So, again, another great opportunity. We just talked about this for a few moments ago for Mitchell, but he can't play 48 minutes. So how do you envision maybe when Mitchell's not on the floor, what the rotation may look like?
Well, I do think that you might even I could see some minutes at the point for Huerter. I mean, he's capable of running the team. Obviously, we saw Matt Dellavedova limited minutes against Charlotte, and I'm certainly not one of his big supporters. I wasn't sure he could still play at the NBA level. He did a nice job, so you can get some minutes there. But I do think Huerter's a guy that. He's a very talented all-around player, and I would like to see him get some minutes at that position because you kind of feel like going forward, it might be necessary. And that to me, he's a three-position player, much kind of like Tyrese Halliburton was. He's not the ball handler of Halliburton, but a lot the same size, shooting ability, and certainly a very unselfish player.
You just mentioned Tyrese Halliburton. I know everyone in Sacramento is happy to see his success. I mean, he's really playing well for Indiana. They got to be very thrilled with him.
Oh yeah, he's playing well. He didn't have a strong game the other night I watched, but that's the first really kind of mediocre game that he's had coming out of the box. But then again, that's kind of he's going to start getting probably defended a little better too. Where so that may happen. But yeah, Tyrese has got a chance to. Have a terrific career there. And then Mathurin, the rookie out of Arizona, is just really outstanding. He's one of the 3 or 4 best rookies, I think, as well. So, the Pacers are, trying to, I think, going to build around their guard line as they should. I think they'd like to move Miles Turner. I know I would if I was them. I'm just not sure he's answered to near the questions that people think that he is.
Larry Bird, is he still involved with the Pacers, and how often do you speak with him?
He's not involved at all. This is the second year he's had no involvement as a consultant or anything. So, we text a little bit about every week, but
you know how to
really
text. Whoa! You know how to text. You know how to use your phone.
Yes,
to
I do.
Text?
It's I know how to call on my cell phone and text on my cell phone. Now, not to large degrees. I try to keep it to 10 words or less, but so on that basis, but I think with kind of Larry's probably more concerned about his home in Naples with some damage than he is with the Pacers right now.
Thank you for that on my rant today. Way to hit it head on. Well, again, I don't want to really get into this too much with you, Jerry, but the one thing I love, and the big news is obviously with the Nets and Kyrie Irving, and TNT is a $1 billion partner of the NBA. And generally speaking, your big partners are not going to rip the league that they televise games for. And I thought last night, I don't know if you saw Inside the NBA, but I thought Charles Barkley was spot on in coming out and saying, hey, the league made a mistake here. They should have suspended Kyrie. They should have fined him. I thought Shaquille O'Neal's comments were spot on. Reggie Miller calling the players crickets. That really says something. Again, a huge partner of the NBA, their biggest partner. I mean, their biggest partners, TNT. And boy, oh boy, they did not hold back last night. We're getting a lot of people commenting on that.
Yeah, no. Well, I think the league is really handle this about as poorly as you can. The
Yeah.
league and the Players Association. Because I always said, boy, if it were an owner that did involved in the same degree, there'd be all kinds of outrage.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's kind of hypocritical the way the whole thing has come down for sure.
Jerry, we talk about Larry Bird. We talk about you growing up in French Lick. We talk about your start, how you really were able to move through the ranks and end up in the NBA. Other than a family member, who had the biggest influence on your career?
That's a great question. Probably, Cotton Fitzsimmons maybe as much as anyone.
Wow.
I mean, there's other people as far as to the NBA level. Now, just getting college jobs and working for good people. Roger Kaiser, former Georgia Tech All-American, or Alan Bradfield, a former Vincennes coach, and a good high school coach. Gene Flowers of Indiana Star was helpful. I mean, all those, but as far as actually even thinking about the NBA, and kind of taking steps to prepare myself or think about it, it would be Cotton Fitzsimmons, because he gave me some opportunities when I got to know him as a junior college coach when he was a junior college coach, and of course he was highly successful and all that. So I would say Cotton, and really obviously a terrific coach, a Hall of Fame level coach, and just really helpful, and kind of guided me to take the Rockhurst job in Kansas City, college job, because he knew the NBA practice there and at the college, and so it would give me a chance to work with teams, and which I did, and get to know people. So it was really a real break for a small college guy to get the insight that I couldn't have got otherwise.
I'll tell you, when the Kings used to play the Suns, and I was in the presence of Cotton Fitzsimmons, he was just a piece of work to listen to. I absolutely loved just hanging out with you and listening to you and Cotton talk, and I would just sit there and chuckle and laugh. Cotton was something else, man. He was something else.
Yeah, well, we both listened most of the time, but I always say with Cotton, I mean, one thing, and but he didn't lack confidence. Let's put it that way. Cotton, and I think that was one of his strengths. He's one of those guys that had enough belief in himself that when things were going bad, he never questioned himself. And
Yeah.
and I certainly was never that mentally strong. So, but I think that was you have to have some pretty hard skin, to deal with it. But yeah, he made the most out of about every situation he was in. I would say
Yeah.
he had a lot of success as a Kansas City Kings coach, and people kind of forget
That's right.
that. I mean, getting the Western Finals, and had some good players, but probably overachieved most years. And the Kings, and the fans never really appreciated the team and the level of play they had there at that time, and that's part of the reason they're not there anymore.
Jerry, I like to look at 20 to 25 games to get a real good read on a team. But with that said, are you impressed with the Utah Jazz enough where you think what they're doing is sustainable? And I'm not talking about winning at this percentage, but I'm talking about the makeup of their team is totally different with a new coach. I mean, I haven't watched them that much. I know you have watched them a lot more than I have. Do you like what you see?
Well, I do, and I'm just surprised. They shouldn't be that good, but they're playing that good.
Hmm.
And I give the veterans a lot of credit. I mean, Mike Conley's been healthy, and certainly he's not the player he once was, but he is a leader. He's a leader and he's an unselfish guy. And then Jordan Clarkson, a six man of the year kind of guy starting, and he can score every night. So you got that, but when you got guy Laurie Marketing has
Oh
looked
boy.
like a real star, a
Yep.
breakout star. He looks like what everybody thought he would be when the Bulls drafted him a few years ago, and now he's there. A 7 footer that makes shots and stretch four, and then of course, and then you got guys like Kelly Olynyk that's bounced around forever, and but he's a player and can fit in. So and young coach Danny Ainge, as you know, Danny Ainge really knows what he's doing.
Yes,
It's
he
one of
does.
those deals that
Yes, he does.
that he's just a step ahead of about everybody else in the league.
He is bold. I mean, you know, Danny. I know Danny. I would say over the years, and I really mean this. You and I have had the pleasure, you more so than me, to just talk to some fascinating people and really talk to them, not with a microphone, not with a camera. But boy, when we used to go to Boston, because Danny didn't travel that much, and see Danny before the game and sit down with him and just shoot the bull with him for 10 or 15 minutes, that was as enjoyable maybe as anyone that I used to talk to over the years in the NBA.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, you just seeing Danny, you light up, because he's
Yeah.
that kind of guy, and obviously had a great career as a player, good coach, and a great executive. I mean, he's done it all, but very personable. Really, never took himself too serious, but had strong opinions about things and invariably right. I always said that I think without a doubt I'd put him as probably the smartest basketball person, player type that I'd ever been around in my all my years. And there's certainly a lot of others that are very bright young men. I don't mean that, but he was a cut above the herd. There's no doubt.
Hmm. Danny always used to love busting my chops over Eli Manning and the Giants. And so whenever I used to see him, Eli can't play Eli. And then after the Giants beat the Patriots, all right, and I saw Danny a couple of weeks later. He saw me from across the court and started to make believe that he was running away from me because he knew I was coming right at him. The one thing about Danny, he could trash talk with the best of him. Danny, I give you credit to Danny. He could dish it out, but he could also take it. And I'll never forget that first conversation after the Giants won the Super Bowl. And I said, "Hey, your quarterback that Mr. MVP, we call him in New York." And Danny was just great. Danny was just his personality, his sense of humor. He never really appeared to take himself that seriously with this stuff. He was just truly one of the boys.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's who he is, and I mean, still today, I think he takes pride in what he does. He's good at it. He knows he's good at it, but there's not a egotistical bone in his body. He's
No.
got the confidence in knowing what he knows and all. But yeah, very easy to deal with. A real basketball man.
Yep.
And I think there's not enough of those in the league anymore. So I think he's working from a clear advantage in some cases.
Jeff asked, "What is your opinion of Dick Motta?"
Well, Dick was, he wasn't. I didn't think he did a very good job with the Kings, to be honest. I think he probably already had a great career, and
Yep.
I think probably is one of those things when he came to the Kings. I think he probably was kind of a little bit like George Karl. I mean, who I think is a Hall of Fame coach, and he is a Hall of Fame coach. Both guys, just at some point, just like players. I think as coaches, there's a burnout that sets in, and you lose your edge. And I think with Dick, with the Kings, I think that was part of it. I don't think it should take away from his career because he had a marvelous career, with the Washington Wizards and Dallas Mavericks as well as the Bulls. But his time with the Denver Nuggets and the Kings just weren't very good. So, but that's the nature of it. Just like a great coach like Rick Adelman really didn't have a couple of good years with the Warriors
That's
or
right.
with the Minnesota Timberwolves. A couple weren't too good, but but that doesn't take away when you have a 20 years of good. You gotta kind of factor that part in. So that's kind of the way I look at it with Dick. I think the Kings just didn't get the best of Dick.
I don't disagree with that at all. But in all fairness, Dick didn't have a roster capable of really competing, and Dick knew that, just like George Karl knew that. I mean, before George even walked into his office, DeMarcus Cousins' camp made it impossible for that situation to ever work. Didn't have the talent. And Jerry, you've always said this. I mean, you got to have some horses. You know that better than anybody. And those coaches really didn't have enough horses to win with.
No, they weren't going to win with the talent they had. There was nobody that could have won consistently with that level. And I think like you say, they knew that. I think when they wanted the jobs probably worse than they should have.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a mildly suggestion. Is one of those things they knew, but I think they hoped, that their efforts, and then they would be a chance to make trades and stuff and change it. But it's when you don't have talent, it's hard to trade for talent, as we've talked about.
That's right. Well, Jerry, you need to come to Miami here, on this island and do your walk. That it's the best walk in the NBA around Brickell Key. I think that once
it is.
You get your go ahead from the doctor where you can leave the house and go out and, experience the world. The walk on Brickell Key, it's the best walk, Jerry. That's the best walk.
Yeah, I've done
NBA.
that. I have done that walk, and you're right. It's a great walk. I had to walk from, across the bridge and the whole thing. And you're in pretty nice country there. But Roseville still worked for me. As long as Roseville lets me walk. They don't attack me. I'll be all right.
All right. Well, Jerry, listen, you hope you are on the mend 100%, not 80%. But again, your 80% today was damn good. I mean, your 80%, I think, is maybe your 100% is pretty damn good, Jerry.
I'm getting closer. I think you perked me up. Just being with you again, just kind of give me a little extra strength. So, thinking about the Kings game and looking forward to it. So, have a lot to talk about next week because, the only thing about the NBA, there's ups, downs, and sideways there every week.
All right, Jerry. We'll talk to you next week. You take care, all right?
Take care.
All right. Good stuff with Jerry Reynolds, as always. And this show is brought to you by New Works Plumbing of Sacramento. Locally owned for over 20 years, New Works has a fix for you. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's sacserviceplumbing.com for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. New Works Plumbing, New Works has a fix for you. We bring in Rhino in Sacktown. And Ryan, good afternoon, man. It's always good to be able to chat with you. And we touched on this with Jerry. The NBA, to me, just once again looks bad here with their inconsistencies as it relates to hate speech, social messaging. We can go on and on. He used Draymond Green as an example this summer. Nothing said when he used the racial slur towards Kendrick Perkins. No statement by the NBA, no fine. Here we are. TNT had to rip the commissioner in the NBA. No fine, no suspension, nothing about, Kyrie Irving. There's just so many inconsistencies here.
Yeah, Grant, and thank you for having me. It truly is a situation where the players have taken power over management. And we've seen this slowly progress. It's, the inmates have taken control of the prison. Not trying to metaphorically say that they are in prison. But that being said, the NBA is in a very tricky spot. And you're looking at this, and this is mental health. If you want to push something that's more important than a lot of the other initiatives that they push, mental health needs to be near the top of the list. Ben Simmons, great example. He got hammered for it, right? He sat out all that additional time. Then he had the back injury. But, he's still dealing with it, and he's trying his best to be productive. You look at somebody like Kyrie Irving. That's the complete opposite to me. He knows that he is mentally ill. However, he's ramping
Why do you
up
say
a
that?
notch.
Why do you say that? Why do you say he knows he's mentally ill? Why do you say that?
Grant, I'm not a doctor, so I cannot I can't say he is for sure mentally ill. But when you're burning sage in the Boston Garden because there's souls of sin in there during warm-ups or during a pregame shoot-around, something's off. There is a balance. That is not right. The world is flat, and so maybe he's not mentally ill. Maybe it's a call for attention and just an attention grab. But one way or another, it's got to stop.
Well, it's a bad look for the NBA for their stance and the way they're going about this. And it's a really bad look for the NBA. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that the Brooklyn Nets haven't lost a lot of their season ticket holders. And I know they're committed to their tickets and they've already spent their money. But I personally, and I said this last year, I've said this on many of my rants and many of my podcasts, I don't know how anyone can root for Kyrie Irving. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now. If I were a fan of the Nets, I really don't think I'd be going to the games. I really don't. I think he would turn me off enough where I would not really want to support the team anymore. And I really mean that.
Yeah, I agree. He is in that small group of players in the league where he is going to cost season tickets. And, he did make comments that were anti-Semitic, and a large population of Brooklyn is Jewish. And yeah. I look at, Miles Plumlee, great example. He is online playing a video game. He gets hammered. He has not played in the league since. And now Kyrie comes out with a book that's in writing and says these things. I mean, what's going on? The commissioner, he is Jewish. It's a huge slap in the face to the fans. Yeah. And even if Kyrie pours in 50, you're not cheering for that guy if you have a heart,
Nope. I'm with you. Talking King says Jerry's on the yacht behind me. No, Jerry wishes he was on the yacht behind me. Trust me, Jerry is not on the yacht behind me. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Kings. Yeah. They are indeed hitting Miami at the perfect time, if there is such a thing, the number one seed in the East. They have not played well. They've been very inconsistent. They played last night. They beat the Warriors, and Jimmy Butler's not playing tonight. If you're Sacramento, this is a very winnable game this evening.
It is a winnable game. You mentioned this earlier in the show with Jerry Grant about Davion. Davion at the end of the season, he got extended minutes. And I think he's a guy that needs to know how many minutes he's going to be playing a night. Obviously not an exact number, but he needs that time to get into the flow of the game. And when he does, you see the results. Last night, he was 9 of 11, 5 for 6 from three-point land, played his tail off. He's going to be ready to go. He's fresh. And I'm really excited to see how he plays tonight. I think that this could be a very good opportunity to solidify him as one of those first two guys coming on where he will get significant minutes at that point guard position.
Well, again, Kevin Huerter needs to continue to play the way he has. He's been incredible for Sacramento. I think that's just looking like a tremendous trade right now for the Kings.
It's been a great trade. I mean, Grant, to me, it looks like Kevin is a play ahead of everybody. And there's just zero hesitation with that quick release that he has. It's money. And so he can pass that along to his teammates, just the mental part of the game, because he knows where the ball's going to be and he knows what he is going to do. And, being indecisive in the NBA leads to hard shots. And that can allow that defender just a moment to, get themselves back under composure and make it a harder shot for them. But Kevin has been a huge part of what we do. I'm not sure that I agree that he can run the one. What do you think, Grant? Do you think he can run the one?
I think for a spell, but not too much. No, I do not. I do not. I think, in a couple of situations, yes, but overall, not really. I don't see him in that position.
And it takes away from his true talent too. Off the ball, cutting, coming off screens. That's where you want that guy to be.
All right. Do the Houston Astros even up this series, or do you think the Phillies are on too big of a roll right now?
I think the Phillies are on way too big of a roll right now. They're hitting their stride at the right time. I think that this one may not go back to Houston.
All right, buddy. Good chatting with you. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you on my next show coming up in a little bit here on Listen Out.
Sounds good, Grant. Talk to you soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Hey, on the chat line, a lot of conversation about Kyrie Irving. And it's just the communication that I'm looking at on the chat line about Irving is just a little bit alarming to me. And by that, I'm saying that, why can't we just have a conversation without attacking each other? All right. We all have different viewpoints. We are entitled to have different viewpoints, including Kyrie Irving. Why can't we talk about these issues and listen to other people's viewpoints and then make your opinion? All right. So, open mic has been putting a lot of messages on this chat line. There's been a lot of responses. We've got Steve say, just listen to his answer. He's not against anybody, meaning Kyrie, and whether he's anti-Semitic or not. Do I think that Kyrie Irving is anti-Semitic? No, I don't. But I don't like the way he handled his press conference. I think he could have gotten out of that situation rather easily and dug himself further into the hole that he's in. The biggest issue that I have with everything that's going on is, for whatever reason, anti-Semitism in this country is not met with enough disdain. And I think that's a real issue. Hate is hate. And whether it's racism, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's hate against the Asian culture, whether it's the Hispanic culture, whether it's Muslims, whether it's Jewish, whether it's Catholic. I mean, we can go on and on. Hate is hate, okay? And this individual saying Kyrie Irving doesn't have a lot of common sense, and I would tend to agree with you. I think you are accurate there. He does lack, to me, with common sense. And so, Open Mike wants to know, is Kyrie hateful? Is he as a human being hateful? I don't know Kyrie Irving. I would say no, but he lacks judgment for an individual with the platform that he has and the role that he has. To me, I think he lacks a lot of judgment. Stephen, again, it was a link to a documentary, not hate. If you promote something that is hateful, if you promote something that is anti-Semitic, do you then agree with what you're promoting? And let's not make any false assumptions here. He did promote the documentary, okay? Somebody said having opinions is hateful. Yeah, you can have an opinion that's hateful. Yes, absolutely. Yes. You don't think that having an opinion is hateful? Yeah. Yes. Opinions can be very hateful. And if you don't think so, I'm sorry. I think you're being a little naive here and need to examine and explore what you just wrote. So it's unbelievable. Here's another one. Grant, there's way too much hate coming from somewhere. Also, Grant, you got to let Kyrie say whatever he wants. I'm not taking away his freedom of speech. I think he can say whatever he wants. I think his judgment and what he had to say about this film, documentary, to me, was a very poor example of judgment, very poor example of lack of common sense. And yeah, he is entitled to what he believes, no question. But he had a chance to, I don't want to say apologize, but he had a chance to clear up what he meant by promoting the film, and basically said he believes the film and believes all of that. Well, I haven't watched the movie, so it's difficult for me to comment. I'm not planning on watching that. All right. I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I'm going to put this on just to show how despicable people are. Grant never said the word anti-Semitic in his life until 2 days ago. This man don't care about prejudiced behavior. He just wants to attack a black player since he got kicked out of the league. I didn't get kicked out of the league. I resigned. But just for the record, I have attacked black players. I've attacked white players. I've attacked people of all ethnicities. I don't really care what the color of your skin is. Doesn't matter to me. You know, if you happen to be black and you continually do stupid things like DeMarcus Cousins and Matt Barnes, I'm going to be critical of you because that's my job as a talk show host. You know, if you go into a New York City nightclub and are arrested for assault, for allegedly striking a woman while you're getting ready to play a game representing the Sacramento Kings, yeah, I'm going to come at you. All right. I'm going to come at you for a lack of judgment. I'm going to come at you for stupidity. I'm going to come at you for the awful nature of what you did in that nightclub. You know, if you are in the locker room and you're getting ready to play a game against the Philadelphia 76ers and it's postponed because there's condensation on the floor, and you put out on Instagram a video of you and DeMarcus Cousins with a bottle of Hennessy, yeah, I'm gonna rip you for that. That's a poor example of using judgment to the best of your ability. We understand that players drink, athletes drink, adults drink, but don't broadcast it on Instagram. Okay? So, I'll attack you if you're black. I'll attack you if you're white. Thank you very much for having my back. But, I mean, doesn't matter to me, your ethnicity, your religion, your sexuality. I don't judge my friends that way. I don't judge people in my life that way. I have a very simple philosophy when it comes to people that are in my life. Okay? I judge people on whether they're good people or not. And if you're a good person, you can be in my life. It's very simple. Good person, and you can be a friend of mine and be in my circle of friends. Very simple. Good people, yes. Bad people, no. Good person, yes. Bad person, no. It's how I live my life. All right. I'm wrapping it up. Got to move on. I got a live show coming up here on Listen Up in just a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Jerry Reynolds. Kings and Heat coming up in just a little bit. You take care, everyone. Friday, right here, 3 o'clock Pacific. We'll talk football. We'll talk World Series with Sean Salisbury. Thanks again for listening and watching. If you don't like that, with Grant Napier. So long, everybody.